Welcome, welcome. Today is an amazing day because I am actually doing the thing. I have been talking about creating some long form content for a while, but there were several things that stopped me. Either I didn't want to be on camera, I was afraid no one would listen, I didn't know what to say, and I'm over that now. Today marks the day where I officially launch Quiet Authority. So, welcome everyone. My name is Joy, and you are listening to the Quiet Authority podcast. And I'm so excited that you're here with me today because I'm not only going to talk to you about what Quiet Authority is, but I'm going to share a little bit about myself and my background and just share my story. So, if that's interesting to you, you want to give it a listen, stick with me. All right, so you see my setup here. I'm keeping it very simple, very, to the point because that's what Quiet Authority is about. Quiet Authority is not about being the loudest in the room. It's not about being the flashiest. It's not about getting the most looks and likes and all those things. It's really about showing up in your most true, authentic way. And that is what I'm promising you. I promise that whenever you see me, whenever you listen to me, I am showing up as my most authentic self. I have my silly moments. I have my serious moments. I have my down moments. And if you stick with me, you will more than likely see all of those things. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Quiet Authority and a little bit about myself. So Quiet Authority is something that has been brewing in my mind for a while. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It actually was born from my desire to build businesses where I could be authentic. Like many of you, you probably get sucked in on social media, which is normal. This is social media as we speak, but you probably have gotten sucked in and realize that hours go by and you leave not fulfilled, you leave more depleted. And it's because the content that you're consuming is performative. Some of it. I can't speak to all of the content that you watch, but for me, a lot of the content that I was watching was performative, and it caused me to second guess myself, to not feel as confident. So when I created Quiet Authority, it came from the businesses that I was creating and how I was showing up there. And I wanted a platform, I wanted a place where I could do the same thing for other people. I could inspire other people to show up with authority. It's not just in the way that whoever's the loudest. It's how you carry yourself, the knowledge that you possess, what you're doing with that knowledge, how you're serving others. All of that is Quiet Authority. So I will be bringing on guests that exhibit that, who embody that level of authority. And I can't wait for those conversations. But before we get to those guests, let me share a little bit about myself. So we'll have to go back about almost 20 years. I entered into the classroom and I wanted to be a teacher so much. I pretended to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher. My uncles were teachers. My aunties were teachers. I was surrounded by them. So I loved education. I wanted to be in the classroom. So I went into the classroom and started teaching. I taught kindergarten first. I love kindergarten teachers. You are a special breed, let me tell you. I loved kindergarten, but it was in a tough school. And I spent most of my career of teaching first and second grade, which was amazing. I left right after COVID. I left the classroom and went corporate. Now, let me tell you, corporate is a whole nother thing. I was so naive by being in the teaching world that I expected everyone to be like teachers were. Teachers were collaborative most of the time. Teachers, shared with you. You could go into your classroom and you could do your own thing. You didn't have someone, I didn't personally, I didn't have someone always, breathing over my shoulder, asking for this and asking for that. I had more autonomy. Corporate world, however, not the case. I won't get too deep into that. I'm going to save some of those stories for when my guests are on. But let's just say the corporate world, while it wasn't what I expected, it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about business. And it taught me a lot about how I want to show up and treat other people. So from there, I worked in corporate for some years. And unfortunately, last year, I got laid off from my job. Now, let me tell you, this was my dream job. This was the job where I said, and maybe I spoke it into existence, but I said, they will have to kick me out before I leave this job. It is exactly where I want it to be. It was everything that I needed at the time. The pay was great. The people were great. The benefits were great. Everything just fit my life at the time. And something surprising happened though. The job began to shift and change, and I was changing, and I can see it now that I'm away from it, but I didn't know what was happening in that moment. But I was changing and evolving, and I was wanting more. I was wanting to be more than just an employee. I was wanting to be more than just the girl that does random tasks. I wanted to be more. And my job started to shift. And when I got laid off, I thought that I would be really sad about it. But in truth, I was relieved. I was getting ready to get onto a cruise. I got onto a call that morning. And that day I was leaving to get on a cruise with my family. And I got the call. I sat on there on this computer and I took in the information and I just nodded and said, okay. I was at peace because I kind of knew it was coming. And I knew at the end of the day, it was just a job. That was not my whole identity. It wasn't going to stop me from being Joy. It wasn't going to stop me from doing what I had planned. It put a speed bump in the way for sure, but I knew that I would be okay. And I was at peace with that. So fast forward a little bit, this is where the transformation happened. This is where I started to reframe how I saw myself and what I wanted to do and build. I had dabbled a little bit with small business before. I had started a juice business. I had thought about starting a daycare. Being an entrepreneur was always in there. It was always a part of me. And I knew that if I just had the right circumstances, I could do it. And that was my mistake. I kept waiting for the right moment. I kept waiting for the right circumstances. I kept waiting for validation. And that's what slowed me down. But one thing transformed my life completely. I took a chance and I went to a webinar. You see them all the time on Instagram. Everyone has a webinar right now. I have a webinar, but my webinar is not free. My webinar is a paid webinar that helps walk you through the structure of your business and where you're losing leads. But I went to a free webinar and it completely shifted how I think. It completely, it gave me confidence that I couldn't get anywhere else. I wasn't getting it from videos. I wasn't getting it from anywhere else. And that confidence helped me to launch my business that stuck. So I launched Bright Desk Co., which is a business that helps other small businesses to find where they're losing leads, whether it's in their follow-up system, their operations, their back end. And I use AI as a leverage to help me identify those gaps and to create solutions to those problems. So in my webinar, like I mentioned, I will walk businesses through how to identify leads. I have a checklist that we go through and an assessment that we go through. If you are interested in taking that assessment, the link for it will be down in the description. So you can go ahead and take that assessment and start seeing how and if my business can help you with your business. So from the webinar though, I shifted how I was thinking. I developed the plan for Bright Desk. I launched it. I got on social media. I got over my fear of being on camera. I started networking with people. I recently went to an event, the podcast summit, where I got to meet some really great people. I wouldn't have done that before. The old me, the old version of Joy, wouldn't have been brave enough. And I say that carefully, but I don't think I would have been brave enough to make such drastic changes. Could I talk to people? Of course. I've been talking to people for as long as I can remember. But talking to people at a level of authority outside of the classroom was different. When I spoke to parents, I always led with authority. I knew exactly what I was talking about. If I said something about reading levels or math skills or how to teach a certain math skill, I spoke with authority. So I knew that I could do it. But in the business world, I was accustomed to being the wallflower. In corporate, I learned that I felt more comfortable just sitting back and observing and watching everyone else. I did not want to speak up and take on leadership. A part of me wanted to, but I was afraid to. And I just sat back and observed. I didn't really want anyone to pay attention to me. But now I want to show up and have this quiet authority. While I may be a quiet person, but I'm going to stand on authority. And that's where we are today. And that's where Quiet Authority Podcast came from. So that's my story. I can't wait to continue sharing more and more with you as we go along in this journey and see who I bring on. I have some really great entrepreneurs within this city and outside of my city that will be coming on to speak with you and sharing their journey, where they were, what was their transformation, and where they are now and where they're headed. So if you like this episode, please let me know. Do all the things, like, subscribe, leave me a comment, check out the assessment that's in the description below, and I'll see you for episode 2. Bye.